Hey guys, welcome back. There's your Soul Sniper. So, a couple cards came in the mail. Let's have a look at what they've got. Now, the first card here is the Will Clark PSA 8. Now, this is my first copy of the Will Clark. Let's have a look. Corner's not bad for an 8. Let's have a look at centering. Centering slightly off. I would say it's slightly off center to top right. The back looks clean. Once again, from the back, it's slightly centered, off center to the top left. Okay, so PSA 8 worthy. I probably will upgrade this card to a 9 or a 10 later on, but it's nice to have a nice clean card. I'm going to make a video. I've noticed a few scuffs on the slab, and I'm going to make a video in the upcoming days about how to remove these scuffs, so stay tuned. Now, let's have a look at our next card. And that's this here, the Dennis Eckersley PSA 9. Let's have a look at centering first. It's a tad bit off-center downwards, so which is okay. I think that in terms of centering, this is probably the most off-centered I would accept for a 9. I usually go for cards that are slightly more centered, but anyways, so let's have a look at corners. Looks pretty good. Corners looks good. It has a bit of yellowing on the borders. Like if we compare this to the Will Clark, you'll see that. So that's not ideal. I try to avoid cards that are a bit off with the white borders, but sometimes it's very hard to tell on the eBay listing because there's just certain situations, like for example, the white balance can be off, or that they tweak the photos in post, or that when they scan the slabs, there's often a lot of software have these like auto edit functions, and they'll tweak the colors. So you won't know until you get the card. And I'm not saying that a yellow or an off-white card will downgrade the grade, but it's there's a high chance that this card sort of yellowed after it was slabbed, and that's not ideal. But anyhow, I didn't get this for. I think I got it for a pretty good deal, so it's okay. The card looks pretty good. Other than that, back is the same as the front, it's just slightly off center to the bottom. But other than that, it's pretty clean. And I'd assume that the surface of the card is pretty clean too. So otherwise, wouldn't have gotten 9. But anyhow, so that's the Eckersley. And finally, this was the card I've been looking for some time. I do have, I think, 1 or 2 Juan Gonzalez, but so this one has a stain. But let's have a look at the card first, because, and let me turn on the light too. It just seems that for a 9, looks pretty good. Okay, let's have a look at the corners. Okay, so the corners are a bit soft, but I probably picked this up mainly due to the centering, I believe. It's pretty well centered, and which is not easy to find for Desert Shield cards. The back looks pretty good, other than the staining. And you may say, well, where's the stain? That's the thing. I mean, there's some gum stains here, and a tad bit right here. But the thing is, this is probably one of the least amount of gum stains. Ooh, sorry. Lost our light. Let me just turn that back on. So this is probably the least amount of gum stains I've seen with my cards that have gum stains, at least in my collection. So the card's pretty clean. Now, I got this for a pretty good deal, at least in my opinion. Would you have bought this card with a stain for this price? What are your thoughts on stains? Now, I wanted to make a video today because there's a lot of talk about how there's been an overpopulation of PSA 9. And that's due to the fact that the new PSA guidelines have been a lot stricter. So a lot of the so-called 10s are now 9s. Or should I say would-be 10s are now 9s. And basically the thought is that, well, now that there's like an overpopulation of 9s, 9 prices will go down. Now, I think that in some cases that this may be true, but you know, this channel is about Desert Shield cards, so I just want to mainly focus on those Desert Shield cards. And I think for Desert Shield cards, that may not be true. And in fact, this is a very good opportunity for people that's been wanting to upgrade, you know, mid-grade Desert Shield cards to a very nice high-grade 9. Okay, so like for example, my aim in my collection is to have really nice, clean cards with, you know, sharp corners, nice centering. And although a 9 may not have all of that, but it will have a majority of that, right? You know, so for a collector, collecting a 9 is like the best way to have great eye appeal, to have a, you know, a pretty high grade, but also so it doesn't break the bank like a 10. And I think in the past, especially in the last 6 months, I've noticed a lot of 9s have the supply of 9s have gone down quite a bit. And I think I'm just going to make an assumption because I don't have any facts to back this up, but I do think there's more and more interest in this set, and or at least there's more and more interest to either collect more or to upgrade, or that there's newer collectors that's interested in the set, and that's what's driving the supply down for 9s. And not to mention 10s, but 10s is, you know, the prices for 10s is there's definitely a premium, on average 5 to 10 times of that of a PSA 9. So I do think that the fact that if the prices do go down, but you know, we do know that there will be a higher supply of 9s, but if the prices go down or not, this will give collectors either a chance to get in on PSA 9s at a lower price, or get in on PSA 9s with cards that rarely show up. And there's a lot of cards that don't show up as PSA 9s. It's not just the 10s. Like, for example, I'm not saying that they don't show up at all, but you know, maybe once a year I'll see certain cards on eBay. For example, like the Louis Soho, or the Marty Clary, or the Cal Ripken Record Breaker. You know, cards that have a really low pop at PSA 10 and 9. And some don't even have a PSA 10. I believe the Louis Soho doesn't have a PSA 10. So cards like that, you know, the fact that if they have more 9s in the PSA pop, that will allow collectors to finally add that to their collection. And that will definitely stimulate more transactions. So I do think that the fact that, I'm not saying that PSA changing their grading guidelines is benefiting collectors, but I do think that it will trigger a lot of collectors to finally upgrade because there's more supply. And I do think that it's a good thing, especially for Desert Shield, because I do think that in the past, a lot of the 10s were not 10 worthy. I've spoken about this before. If you compare a lot of the new 9-figure cert PSA 10s compared to the older label, especially the older label with the silver foil PSA label in the front. It's while the new 9-figure cert isn't perfect, but there's a lot of, I think that there's a lot of things that PSA grading missed out with these older labels, and a lot of 10s actually look like 9s, and some even look like 8s. So that's why when I'm buying 10s, I'm very, very cautious. Like, there's a bunch of 10s on eBay now that I would love to own if they look 10 worthy, but they're not. Like, they're like off-centered like an 8, or that they have like dinged corners and paper loss in the back, and in the corners at least, and or that they have a lot of chipping. And so, but they're still selling for that 10 premium. It's not like, oh, it doesn't have that 10 appeal, so I'm going to sell it for a lot less. So, cards like that I try to avoid. And although I don't mind buying cards with older labels, but I do look for that 10 eye appeal with the older label. Like, I'd rather do that than buy a card that has a 10 label but doesn't look like a 10, because I'm really buying the card and not the label. So that's why I don't mind buying 9s and sometimes 8s or even 7s. I have a couple 7s in my collection. But I think 9s are probably, to me, most value, and also the condition of a 9. And a lot of times that I've purchased a 9, I think some of the 9s are actually 10 worthy. So yeah, what do you think? I mean, do you think the new PSA grading guidelines will create this humongous supply of PSA 9s for Topps Desert Shield? And how will that affect collectors? Mind you, unlike other sets, a lot of, I guess similar to the modern cards, we are a limited set, right? We have less than 9,000 cards in our set for per card. And so even if PSA changes their grading guidelines, I really doubt that all of a sudden we'll see, like, double the amount of PSA 9s for a particular card, right? It may just affect it by like a few percentage. But other than that, I don't think that, the collection is scarce enough to withstand such a change. And that's just only my opinion. So let me know what you think, and let me know what you think about these cards. Do you think I got a good deal? Did I overpay them for this 8 and these 2 9s and this 9 with a stain especially? And what do you think about the Eckersley that has a bit of yellowing? Let me know. Please like and subscribe to this video if you like to watch more videos about Desert Shield cards. That will help me a lot and encourage me to make more videos in the future, and where I like to show you more of my collection and talk more about Desert Shield cards. Until then, I'll talk to you soon. Bye now.